For the last 50 years, real estate valuation has been a simple equation: location plus square footage plus condition. If you had those three, your asset was safe. But right now, under the radar of the mainstream news, a fourth variable has taken over, and it is actively destroying the value of millions of homes across the UK, the US, and Europe. It's called the brown discount. We're witnessing the end of the energy agnostic era. Today, we're going to look at why your home might be becoming a stranded asset, a liability that costs more to own than it's worth. You've probably heard of the green premium, the idea that you pay extra for a sustainable home. That's a comforting myth. The reality, according to new data from Scenario Labs and major insurers, is much harsher. The market isn't rewarding virtue, it is punishing obsolescence. The brown discount is the penalty applied to properties that fail to meet modern energy and resilience standards. It's not just about losing value, it's about the capitalization of future liabilities. When a buyer looks at an older home today, they aren't seeing character, they're seeing a $50,000 retrofit bill. This devaluation is being driven by three specific forces. First, OPEX volatility. Energy prices have permanently shifted the math on affordability. An inefficient home is now a leaky bucket for your income. Second, regulatory capex. Governments are moving from incentives to fines. Local Law 97 in NYC, MEES in the UK. And third, liquidity risk. This is the silent killer. Banks and insurers are quietly backing away from brown assets. If you can't insure it, you can't get a mortgage. If you can't get a mortgage, the value creates a freefall. Let's look at the front lines. In New York City, we're seeing the mobilization of the built environment. Local Law 97 has set strict carbon caps. The penalty? $268 for every metric ton of CO2 over the limit. That doesn't sound like much until you do the math for the pre-war co-op running on an old boiler. We're talking about fines in the hundreds of thousands annually. This creates a death spiral for valuation. The building faces a fine, so it levies a massive assessment to pay for retrofits. The monthly maintenance spikes, buyer demand vanishes, the asset price drops. This is the brown discount in action. It is the net present value of those future fines. Across the Atlantic, the United Kingdom faces a different but equally brutal cliff edge. The government is pushing to make rental properties with an EPC rating below C illegal to rent. If you are a landlord with a standard Victorian terrace rated E, you have a binary choice: spend £50,000 to £35,000 on retrofits, or exit the market. This has triggered a massive sell-off of unmodernized stock. But here is the catch. Because everyone is selling brown stock at the same time, the market is saturated. The price gap between an A-rated home and an F-rated home is widening into a chasm. The fixer-upper is no longer a bargain, it's a trap. And this isn't isolated. The EU's renovative wave is mandating upgrades for the worst performing 15% of building stock. In countries like Spain, where 95% of homes were built before strict codes, this effectively labels a vast portion of the market as distressed. The regulatory guillotine is falling globally. Let's move away from laws and look at physics. Thermodynamics doesn't care about your property value. In a high energy cost environment, the total cost of ownership has changed. If house A costs $300 a month to heat and house B costs $50 over a 25-year mortgage, that is a $75,000 difference in cash flow. Rational market theory says the price of house A must drop by at least that amount to be competitive. The brown discount is, in many ways, just a rational adjustment for higher operating costs. So, just renovate, right? Wrong. This is where we hit the ROI gap. For many homes in lower value regions, say the Rust Belt in the US or the Northern England, the cost of the cure exceeds the value of the disease. If a home is worth $150,000 and the required retrofit is $50,000, you are overcapitalizing the asset. You'll never get that money back in a sale. This is what creates a stranded asset. The math simply breaks. You can't sell it for what you owe, and you can't afford to fix it. This is the definition of financial obsolescence. Now we get to the most terrifying accelerator of the brown discount: insurance. Insurance is what we are terrified of. This is being called climate redlining. In California and Florida, major insurers are simply walking away. They aren't raising prices, they are ceasing to write policies. When a property becomes uninsurable by private carriers, it becomes effectively unsellable to anyone who needs a mortgage. Lenders require hazard insurance, no loan. The buyer pool shrinks to cash-only speculators who demand 40 to 50% discounts. This tension exploded recently with Zillow. They started publishing climate risk scores and listings. The backlash was instant. Homeowners and agents screamed that these scarlet letters were killing deals. Zillow retreated, hiding the scores, but hiding that data doesn't remove the risk. The insurers know, the banks know, and now you know. We are in a period of information asymmetry, where the institutions are pricing in risk that the average homebuyer is ignoring until it's too late. In the US, FEMA's Risk Rating 2.0 has ended the era of subsidized flood insurance. We're seeing premiums jump from $800 to $4,000 a year for older homes in flood zones. That price hike is a direct reduction in your purchasing power. It is a one-to-one correlation with property value decline. The artificial value prop created by cheap insurance has evaporated. When you combine these factors, you get a liquidity trap. Properties that fall below a certain efficiency or resilience threshold are losing their access to finance. We're seeing the emergence of cash-only markets in high-risk zones. When an asset moves from financeable to cash-only, it instantly loses 20% to 40% of its value. This is the ultimate realization of the brown discount. It's not about the boiler, it's about the bankability. Can green mortgages save us? Currently, no. A 0.1% discount on your interest rate saves you maybe $20 a month. That is not enough to incentivize a $50,000 retrofit. The financial instruments we have are woefully inadequate. We need transition finance, massive structural loans to bridge the gap. Until that exists, the burden falls entirely on your equity. We're moving toward a bifurcated market: Tier 1, prime green, efficient, resilient, insurable. These will hold value. Tier 2, stranded brown, inefficient, exposed, liable. These are the value traps. If you're holding real estate today, you need to ask yourself, which pile is my asset in? The era of buying anything and waiting for it to go up is over. The market has done the math. The brown discount is real, it is growing, and it is coming for the unprepared. Good luck.